The E-100 series is probably the most iconic set of Eggman robots, first debuting in Sonic Adventure and still having a presence in the series to this day, though it's entirely possible that some people only know about Omega and the E-100 units that appear in Sonic Adventure, but there are a lot more, so I thought this was the perfect subject for the second Sonic lore compilation. My correction up front this time isn't so much a correction and more a disclaimer. I refer to these characters a few times, and no one is happy no matter how I say these characters' names. My first instinct was to use the pronunciation used in the English dub of Sonic X, which is ML, because that's the only time the English version of the name has been said by a voice actor, so I thought this would be the path of least resistance, and I was wrong. In Sonic Battle, Sonic highlights that the name is a pun on Emerald, and this is Ryan Drummond era Sonic, and he says Emerald like this.
Emerald!
So Emerald, which is how I normally say it. People complained about that one too, so I've decided to avoid saying these characters' names, and when I absolutely have to, I'm going to say it differently every time. There's no point in correcting me, because I'll just think of a new, probably incorrect way to say it. Anyway, on to the TikToks. The E-100 series is a discontinued group of Eggman robots that first appear in Sonic Adventure and have continued to appear in both the games, Archie comics, and IDW comics. We can assume the first of these robots was E-100, and we know for certain the final of the E-100s is E-123 Omega. This line of robots is fairly varied, so pinning down uniform features across all of them is difficult as there are generally exceptions. One of the most different of the E-100s is the Egg Keeper, which was a mass-produced version of the E-100 model. Despite being discontinued, the Egg Keeper seems to be in still some sort of use for the Eggman Empire. The E-100 series is also shown to be slightly more cognizant, self-aware, and thoughtful than the average Eggman robot. E-100 is the first of the E-100 series, stated to be a prototype. Appearing first in Sonic Adventure, its main mission was to capture Birdie, who was in possession of a Chaos Emerald, and as Amy was protecting Birdie, Zero made an attempt to capture her as well. He did eventually succeed in capturing her, and even somehow managed to survive the egg carrier crashing. Though after he attacked Birdie, he was no match for an upset Amy. While Zero has had some cameos in other games, his appearances in other media are primarily adaptational, either directly adapting the events of Sonic Adventure or just calling back to them. Another notable thing about Zero, when E-100 units are destroyed in Sonic Adventure, an animal usually pops out, but that's not the case for Zero, so it's seemingly implied he runs on some other power source. E-101 Beta is one of Robotnik's E-100 series and the main antagonist of E-102 Gamma's route in Sonic Adventure. Eggman tests Beta and Gamma against each other, and after Gamma beats Beta, Robotnik opts to exclusively use Beta as, quote, spare parts. Later, it's revealed that Eggman is rebuilding Beta from the ground up into E-101 Beta Mark II, though this transformation does not complete before the egg carrier crashes. Upon returning to the egg carrier, now adrift at sea, Gamma finds Beta and does battle with him. While Gamma manages to defeat him, Beta does manage to mortally wound his brother, resulting in the birds inside both of them being freed and flying away together. There are some changes across adaptation. In both Archie and Sonic X, Beta joins the other E-100 units in their hunt for Froggy. In issue 81 of Archie Sonic, he's mistakenly colored purple, which made me assume he was E-105 Zeta. However, in issue 82, he's clearly labeled E-101. In Sonic X, rather than his second form being named E-101 Beta Mark II, he is named E-101 Kai. Then, in Archie, it's shown that Gamma actually manages to survive his skirmish with Mark II, much to Eggman's annoyance. Again, he's miscolored, this time with the color red being erroneously added to his design. E-102 Gamma is one of Eggman's E-100 series and a playable character in Sonic Adventure. He proves himself to be the most effective of the E-series to Eggman, both by defeating E-101 Beta in battle and being the one to capture Froggy. Up to this point, he remained a loyal Eggman soldier, until a certain pink hedgehog and blue bird convinced Gamma to free them. Amy then also stopped the fight between Sonic and Gamma and convinced Gamma to no longer work for Eggman. After finally recognizing Eggman as an enemy, Gamma set out on a mission to free all of the animals from inside the other E-100 units. While he completes his mission, he does not survive his story, though his demise does free the animal inside of him. While it may appear that Gamma is the only playable character that does not appear in the game's final story, the bird that was inside of Gamma is following Amy, true to the connection that Gamma formed with her. Gamma would then reappear in Sonic Shuffle, seemingly temporarily revived, quote, by the strange power of dreams of Imaginary World. As Imaginary World is a dream world, this did not mark a permanent return for him. His story in Sonic X is roughly the same. One of the more notable changes is that Amy now sees his demise. The Archie comics provide the more interesting adaptational changes. The Archie comics abruptly abandoned Gamma's storyline after the egg carrier, maybe to get people to play the game. The world of advertising is a mystery. The comic met back up with him many years later in Sonic Universe number 3, where it's revealed he survived his showdown with Beta Mark II, and this time meets his end at the hands of E-123 Omega, but not before he uploads his code to his more heavily artilleried sibling, living on through him. Also, this time the bird inside of him was not pink. According to former Sonic team member Shiro Miyakawa, Gamma was originally pitched to return in Sonic Heroes, but the idea was scrapped. Despite Gamma's betrayal, Eggman has built quite a few robots resembling him, which we'll go over next time. So a question I've gotten a few times is, do I think the pink bird from Sonic Prime that always is around Amy is Gamma? The answer is maybe. I would assume so. Having a bird consistently tied to Amy across multiple universes to me implies it wasn't a random choice, and more something specifically taken from source material. They do call the bird Birdie, which is the name of the blue bird from Sonic Adventure, not Gamma's bird. But that still does tie the bird to Gamma's story. In short, I assume there is some connection, but I don't feel confident conclusively saying it's Gamma at this time. The E-1000 is a mass-produced Eggman robot that first appears in Sonic Adventure 2. Despite not technically being one of the E-100 series, its design was based off of Gamma, but given the dual cannons of Beta Mark II. Unlike the E-100 series, they appear to be much weaker and lack any cognitive ability. This robot makes frequent appearances in the comics as well, showing actually to be quite formidable. In Archie, it gives both Sonic and Gamma trouble on different occasions, and on a third occasion it takes the combined efforts of Antoine, Sally, and Tails to take one down. In IDW, they are a model of robot that had been salvaged by the villainish Clutch the Possum, and repurposed into one of his guard robots. They seem to be just as formidable, with two of them and some motobugs proving to be more than a match for Gemerl. Chaos Gamma is an E-100 series unit that appears in Sonic Battle. He appears alongside the mass-produced and very similar Guard Robo. He was constructed during Eggman's experiments utilizing Chaos Emeralds as their power core. He was tasked with recovering ML by Eggman. Side note, he had also become very jealous of ML, as ML was given a Chaos Emerald and he was not. He's also looking to prove his superiority so that Eggman will upgrade him again. One of his special abilities is a recovery function that allows him to repair damage received in battle very quickly and then fight again. Due to his very similar appearance, many characters ask if he's Gamma, to which he refuses to respond until he finally tells Amy that he has no memory of that name. Surprisingly, it isn't Amy that softens the robot's heart this time. It's Cream when she remarks that power isn't something you take, it's something you use to protect those dear to you, which causes the robot to flee in confusion. This does not make Chaos Gamma switch sides, however, as he later shows up and attempts to destroy ML and Shadow, but the two leave him malfunctioning in the street. Despite this, he does show up later in Eggman's Gimme Shelter at the end of the game as an optional training battle. Whether that's actually diegetic is up to interpretation, but it makes me feel good thinking that there's some version of Gamma still out there. E-103 Delta and E-104 Epsilon are E-100 units that appear in Sonic Adventure. I've bundled them together because there isn't a whole lot independently interesting about them. Delta and Epsilon not only fail to locate Froggy, but also bring the incorrect frog, failing to even account for the defined appearance Eggman had given them as direction. For their failure, Eggman discards them, but not before upgrading them to have dual cannons. Delta is then stationed in Windy Valley, while Epsilon is stationed in Red Mountain. When Gamma destroys them, it's revealed that Delta was powered by a parrot, and Epsilon was powered by a robin, happening to be powered by birds just like Beta and Gamma. Sonic X does change this, however, as it gives Delta a rabbit as its power source, and we never see Epsilons. E-105 Zeta is an E-100 unit that appears in Sonic Adventure. Like Delta and Epsilon, he was disposed of after failing to find Froggy. However, instead of being given dual cannons, he was turned into a giant stationary defense system. The animal powering him was a peacock, also a bird. In the Sonic 25th Anniversary comics, when Cubot and Orbot were researching the E-Series robots, they happen across Zeta's story, filed under the word unfortunate, and his fate terrifies them. In the Archie comics, beyond this fate, Eggman also creates an entire squadron of mass-produced E-105 models, and uses them to invade the wooded village of Feral Forest. However, the combined efforts of Sonic, the Freedom Fighters, and all of the villagers are enough to defeat the army and drive Eggman away. E-106 is an E-100 unit which primarily appears in the comics. It first appeared in the Archie comics, taking part in the kidnapping of Professor Pickle and Uncle Chuck. It was then stationed to guard them as well. While it is shown to be incredibly strong, it's also shown to really lack in speed. But it's able to catch Sonic off guard and nearly causes him to transform into his werehog form, but Amy saves him, flattening the pointed ends of one of Ada's gauntlets in the process. The combined efforts of Sonic and Amy are able to knock it off of its feet, but it doesn't seem to damage him as he immediately attempts to stand back up, causing Amy to comment that not even Zero was this annoying. Amy hits him one more time for good measure, and the group escape while it's recovering. It appears one more time in the Archie comics, and is finally destroyed by the combined efforts of Bunny, Sally, and Antoine. Another version of E-106 Ada would then appear in the IDW comics, now resembling Zero. Ironic given Amy's earlier comparison between the two. E-107 Theta is an E-100 unit that primarily appears in the comics. He first received an offhanded mention in the Archie comics in Sonic Universe number 7 as a threat so dangerous it had to be quarantined. This does contradict an in-lore blog post stating that Theta was destroyed by Gamma. Theta would then make a proper appearance in the IDW comics in issue 8, taking on Silver, Whisper, and Sonic. It does prove to be fairly effective, unleashing an absolutely hectic assault and being able to withstand direct hits from Whisper's Wispon, without showing any signs of damage. On top of that, it nearly destroys Whisper, but Silver saves her at the last moment. The trio is eventually able to defeat it. The animal powering it is another deviation from the common trait across many E-100 units of being powered by birds, as it's powered by a pig, or if you're a stickler for the lore names, a picky. E-108 Iota, E-109 Kappa, and E-110 Lambda are E-100 units that appear in the Archie comics. The three units are stationed in Sand Hill Zone and ambushed Bunny, Sally, and Antoine when they were attempting to collect a Chaos Emerald. Iota is a flight-based unit, Kappa is adept at burrowing, and Lambda has the ability to fire bombs. Sally, Bunny, and Antoine are completely overwhelmed by them and can't mount a defense against them. Even when Amy, Tails, and Rotor show up as backup, they can't gain an upper hand, resulting in Cream and Big showing up to rescue them. This deeply upset Sally as she felt she had failed the Freedom Fighters by leading them into what she now felt was an obvious trap. The three units join 106 Ada at the end of the comic, though we are only shown Iota, who Tails manages to destroy, while it's implied that Antoine, Bunny, and Sally get their revenge on Kappa and Lambda off-panel. Notable, these three units are actually based off of Scratch, Grounder, and Coconuts from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, and very funnily, those three appear in the comic 2 issues after the E-Series debut appearance, now working for Breezy the Hedgehog. E-113 Xi is an E-100 unit that appears in the Archie comics. Unlike many E-100 units, it's a quadruped with a laser beam on the tip of its tail. It's modeled after a tiger, Sonic even noting the cat-like appearance. It moves incredibly quickly, keeping pace with Sonic. Sonic even says he's struggling to put distance between him and Xi. It's also able to sense the location of unseen foes, foiling Sally and Amy's plan to ambush it. Xi is able to land a lucky shot on Sonic, but Sonic is rescued by Ray the Flying Squirrel, and Mighty the Armadillo destroys the robot. Bizarrely, another version of E-113 shows up in the Sonic DLC for LEGO Dimensions, and happens to be pretty much the same color. Absolutely no clue if this was done intentionally. E-117 Sigma is an E-100 unit that appears in the IDW Scrapnik Island miniseries, and is currently the newest E-Series unit to be explored in any Sonic media. We don't know much about his time working for Eggman, as the earliest we've seen Sigma is him waking up on Scrapnik Island. As E-100 units have always been a little bit more cognizant, Sigma recognized he was abandoned by Robotnik and thus turns his back on the Doctor as well. He sets out repairing his fellow damaged robots, including Mecha Sonic, and forms a society with them. He's shown to be friendly to both Sonic and Tails, and really just wants to do the best for his fellow badniks. Scrapnik Island's final issue is dropping January 18th, so just a few days from now, so we'll see how his story concludes very soon. There have been theories that Sigma is the green E-100 unit from the Gimme Shelter in Sonic Battle, as well as the fact that there is another E-117 unit in the Sonic DLC for LEGO Dimensions that I can't tell the color of due to a combination of the lighting in the room and the fact that my vision struggles with certain colors. Though maybe these questions will be answered in Scrapnik Island number 4. E-118 Tau is an E-100 unit that appears in issue 277 of the Archie comics. Modeled after a flying saucer, its time in the comic is brief, but it does appear rather menacing. It begins its appearance by chasing down Sonic and Lupe Wolf. Sonic deviates from Sally's plan, possibly implying that he couldn't take it on directly, as he leads Tao into an active storm, causing Tao to be struck by lightning and get destroyed. E-121 is an E-100 unit that appears in Sonic Battle and is based off of Gemerl, so it's quite the deviation in appearance for E-100 units. Also, unlike many E-100 units, this model is mass-produced, sometimes the player having to fight multiple of them at once. They are also powered by Chaos Emerald shards. Notably, the name E-121 implies it was built before Omega, and Omega does get name-dropped by Rouge in the game, so Eggman may have been working on his plans for Gemerl for quite some time. Between my videos, I have now said this character's name every way people say it, so now everyone can be mad at me. E-123 Omega is the last of the E-100 line, and is a central member of the Sonic cast. Debuting in Sonic Heroes, he was stationed to guard the currently dormant Shadow. Omega grew frustrated as he felt this squandered his abilities, and this frustration eventually led him to turn against Eggman, joining Team Dark with Shadow and Rouge, and has since made regular appearances throughout the mainline series and spin-off material. In the 25th anniversary webcomics, Orbot noted that Omega is the most powerful of the E-units. A notable subject of discussion is Omega's power source. It's assumed that, unlike the majority of E-100 units, he is not powered by an animal. In both the IDW and Archie comics, Omega's casing has been broken apart with no signs of an animal inside. In fact, in the instance of Archie, an unidentified device is ripped out of him, resulting in Omega having to use a backup of some kind. In Sonic 06, Omega does mention having a backup power unit, not something E-100 units generally have. It's been theorized that Omega's true power source are the power cores from Sonic Heroes, which are in fact a diegetic element, as Dr. Starline uses them for a new device in the IDW comics. In the Archie comics, Omega has quite the different introduction. Gamma had not only survived his journey in Sonic Adventure, but had also began hunting down each of Eggman's E-100 units to free the animals within. Eggman, who at this point has grown tired of Gamma's journey, sends in Omega to hunt down the renegade robot. At first, however, Omega refuses, frustrated that he's not being sent in to go after Sonic, though Eggman does eventually make him change his mind after threatening him. Omega then tracks down both Gamma and by happenstance Shadow. Shadow attempts to fight Omega so that Gamma can escape, but Omega proves to be too much for him. Gamma unleashes a surprise attack on Omega, but it does little but knock him off his feet. Before Omega destroys him, Gamma uploads his code to Omega, both allowing him to live on through Omega and allowing Omega the perspective to turn against Eggman and join Team Dark. In the Archie comics, during the Treasure Team Tango arc, Team Dark is tasked by GUN to obtain a Soul Emerald. Upon obtaining it, Team Rose gets ready to fight for it, at which point Rouge tells Omega to unleash his barrage on them, despite Shadow's protests. Blaze, however, is able to catch the attack with her pyrokinesis and redirects it back at Omega. While this does knock Omega off of his feet, the display of Blaze's abilities leaves Omega completely infatuated with her, and this infatuation continues until the end of the story arc. This infatuation even technically survived the reboot, as the Matchmaker variant cover of Sonic Universe number 72 pairs Omega and Blaze together. Unfortunately, Omega and Blaze have yet to really interact directly in the IDW comics, but I hope they at least keep Omega having an admiration of her destructive abilities. In the IDW comics, after being repaired by Bell and Tails, Omega is given the opportunity to test his abilities against another badnik who had turned against the Eggman Empire, Gemerl. However, this ends up being more than a fight, turning into a battle of their ideological stances. Omega points out that their origins are similar, but Gemerl has lost his edge, which Omega chalks up to Gemerl beginning to live with Cream and her mother. Omega then says the only way for Gemerl to regain his fighting prowess would be to abandon Vanilla and Cream, a suggestion that enrages Gemerl. Gemerl states that he and Omega are very different, as Omega was built just to destroy, and Gemerl was built to evolve, and that his new purpose is to stand by Cream and Vanilla. After fighting to a draw and nearly destroying each other in the process, the two develop a mutual respect of one another. Side note, in the Archie comics, Omega takes a liking to Cream after spending time with her during the Treasure Team Tango arc. As Omega and Cream have only superficially spent time together in the IDW comics, it's entirely possible he'd start liking her after spending time with her. Isaac is a robot that appears in the Archie comics built several thousand years before the beginning of the main plot, and may in fact be the technological ancestor to all E-100 units, as he identifies himself as an Alpha 100 series mechanoid. He was built by Dr. Ivan Kintopor, an ancestor of Eggman, and is powered by the alien technology of the Zorda. When the Zorda nearly wiped out all life on the planet in retaliation for previous treatment, Ivan ordered Isaac to watch over him and locked himself in stasis.
Isaac spent the next several millennia cataloging historical events for the Doctor. At some point, Shadow discovered Isaac in his bunker and formed an uneasy alliance. Sonic and Metal Sonic would also stumble across the bunker, and this would result in an all-out free-for-all, during which it would be revealed that Isaac's bunker contained a nuclear missile, which Sonic and Shadow disarmed before fleeing. While the Hedgehogs leave, Isaac stays behind, waiting for his creator to eventually awaken. Unfortunately, that day would never come, as Dr. Finitivus would disassemble Isaac for parts, leaving Ivan Kentober in stasis forever.
Thank you for watching. I'm continuing to post videos daily on TikTok, and if you want to support me, you can do that through my Patreon. I want to give a shout out to my current patrons, Ned Rex, Tentacle Teapot, and AJ Wigglesworth. See y'all in the next video.